Some betrayals don't come from strangers. They come from the ones you trusted the most. The applause was deafening. Cameras flashed, reporters scrambled for a statement, and investors shook hands over champagne. Ryan Carter stood at the center of it all, a satisfied but exhausted smile on his face. 8 years. That's how long it had taken him to transform his parents' tiny corner shop into a national empire. Late nights, endless negotiations, sacrifices he had never spoken about. And now, it had all paid off. Pierce Foods had just secured an $8 million expansion deal. This was supposed to be his moment, the moment he finally earned his place, not just in the industry, but in his own family. But the moment he stepped into his parents' house that evening, everything changed. His mother and father sat at the dining table, his younger brother, Daniel, standing beside them. The air felt off, tense. Ryan frowned. "What's going on?" His father cleared his throat. "Son, we've made a decision." His mother gave him a forced smile, her hands twisting nervously in her lap. "We've decided to name Daniel as the new CEO of Pierce Foods." Ryan froze. The words didn't make sense at first. "Excuse me?" His voice was calm, but his pulse roared in his ears. Daniel stepped forward, his expression unreadable. "Mom and Dad think it's best for the family." Best for the family? Ryan let out a short, humorless laugh. "I built this company. I took it from a shop that barely made rent to a national brand. And you're telling me that I'm being replaced?" His father sighed, looking down at his hands. "You're a great businessman, Ryan. But Daniel understands what this company means to the family." The words hit like a sledgehammer. Ryan had given everything for this company. And now, without hesitation, without even asking him, his own parents had handed his legacy to someone else. He looked at Daniel, waiting for an explanation, an apology, something. But Daniel just met his gaze and said nothing. That's when Ryan realized this wasn't a mistake. It was a choice, and they had chosen against him. The silence was suffocating. Ryan scanned their faces, searching for a crack, a hint of guilt, anything that would make this betrayal hurt less. But there was nothing, just forced smiles and a quiet expectation that he would accept this without question. He let out a slow, sharp breath, shaking his head. "So that's it. 8 years. 8 years of my life, and you're handing it to him like I was never here." His mother reached for his hand, but he pulled away. "Ryan, honey, we know how hard you worked." "No," he cut her off, his voice low but firm. "No, you don't. You think this just happened? You think investors trusted our name? No, they trusted me." He gestured around the house, the bigger house they had moved into because of his success. "Everything you have now, I built it. And now you're telling me I'm not family enough to run my own company?" His father sighed, his tone laced with finality. "Ryan, it's not personal. We just feel Daniel is a better fit." "Not personal." Ryan turned to Daniel, who had been eerily silent. His younger brother had never once stepped foot in a boardroom, never worked a 16-hour day trying to keep the company afloat. And yet, here he was, standing in Ryan's place without even a flicker of hesitation. Finally, Daniel spoke. "Look, Ryan, you're good at building things. But leadership? That's different." His lips curved into something almost sympathetic. "You're too focused on growing. You don't think about tradition." Ryan laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Tradition?" He stepped closer, his voice dropping. "You mean control. You want to run this company not because you earned it, but because it was handed to you." Daniel didn't deny it. That's when Ryan felt it, that final snap, the cold realization that it didn't matter what he had done, how much he had sacrificed. They never saw him as the rightful leader. They never wanted him to be. Ryan took a step back, exhaling slowly. You know what? He pocketed his hands, his expression unreadable. Fine. You want the company? He looked straight at Daniel. It's yours. His mother's eyes softened. Oh, Ryan, I'm so glad you understand. He smirked. But let's see how far you get without me. Confusion flickered across their faces. His father frowned. What does that mean? Ryan pulled out his phone, tapping the screen a few times before looking up, his smirk never fading. I just sent my resignation. Effective immediately. He slipped the phone back into his pocket. Let's see how your investors feel when the actual reason for this company's success walks away. His mother's face paled. His father sat straighter, alarm creeping into his expression. And Daniel's confidence flickered just slightly. For the first time in years, Ryan felt something new. Control. They had underestimated him, and they were about to regret it. The tension in the room shifted. The power dynamic that had once tilted against Ryan was now hanging by a thread. His father was the first to break the silence. Ryan, don't be rash. We built this company as a family. Ryan let out a slow, sharp breath, shaking his head. Number I built this company. You just enjoyed the success. He turned to Daniel, his smirk fading into something colder. And you? You think you can just walk in and take over? Fine. Let's see how long you last without the guy who actually knows how to run this business. Daniel swallowed hard, but still held his ground. You're bluffing. Ryan pulled out his phone again, this time dialing a number. We'll see. The line rang once before a crisp voice answered. Mr. Carter. Olivia, Ryan said, keeping his eyes locked on his brother. Send a notice to all key investors. Effective today, I'm stepping down. A pause. Sir, are you sure? Ryan's father leaned forward. Wait a second. Very sure. Ryan cut him off. Oh, and one more thing. Make sure they know why. The temperature in the room dropped. His father's face twisted in panic. Ryan, listen. No, you listen. Ryan snapped, his voice turning ice cold. You didn't just take my position. You forced me out of something I built from the ground up. You didn't want me as CEO? Fine. But you don't get my leadership, my connections, or my vision. He slipped his phone back into his pocket. Let's see how your new CEO handles an empire when the foundation is gone. Daniel's hands curled into fists, but there was something else in his expression now. Fear. Because deep down, he knew. Without Ryan, this company was a house of cards. His mother stood abruptly. Ryan, please. But Ryan had already turned toward the door. As he reached for the handle, he paused, glancing back one last time. You picked him over me. Now, let's see if you can live with that choice. And with that, he walked out. His father called after him. Daniel cursed under his breath. His mother's voice cracked as she pleaded for him to come back. But Ryan didn't stop, because for the first time in his life, he wasn't looking back. Sometimes walking away isn't losing. It's just the beginning of something bigger. Ryan stepped outside, inhaling the crisp evening air. The weight that had been crushing him for years, the endless need to prove himself, to earn his family's approval, was gone, replaced by something else. Freedom. His phone buzzed. Olivia. He answered. Sir, she said quickly, her voice sharp with urgency. I just sent the notice. Investors are already asking questions. Some are threatening to pull out if you're not involved. Ryan smirked. Of course they are. They should talk to their new CEO, he said, glancing back at the house one last time. Let's see how my dear brother handles that. Sir, Olivia hesitated, then lowered her voice. I know you're furious, but are you sure you want to just walk away? This is your company, your vision. Ryan's grip tightened around the phone. She wasn't wrong. He had given everything to build Pierce Foods, But his family had made one thing clear. They would never see him as the rightful leader. Staying would mean constantly fighting for a place they would never give him. If they wanted him gone, then he would leave. But that didn't mean he was done. His smirk returned. I'm not walking away, Olivia. I'm just taking everything I know with me. Silence. Then she let out a small laugh. So, are you saying what I think you're saying? Ryan stepped toward his car, his mind already racing with possibilities. How fast can we set up a new company? Depends, Olivia said. How big are we going? Ryan opened the car door, sliding into the driver's seat. Bigger than Pierce Foods. He could already see it, his own brand, his own empire, built without them. He had the knowledge, the experience, and the investors already questioning the company's future. His family thought they had won. They had no idea they had just created their biggest competition. He started the engine, his gaze locked on the road ahead. Let's get to work. Some betrayals don't end a story. They start a new one, and this time, Ryan wasn't building for them. He was building to destroy them.